Hey guys, this is your host Liberty, and welcome to another review roundup. This time for Divergence, a game made for the RPGmaker.net McBacon Game Jam. This game was lovely. It was interesting, it was fun, and while it had its frustrations, it was a very good game made within 3 weeks. Graphically, it was just lovely. The whole atmosphere of the game was centered around plants that may or may not have been there. Basically a whole other world that may or may not have existed. And it is beautiful. The graphics, as far as I can tell, are all custom. The monster, the environments, everything, it just looks so good together. And it really, really shines in that aspect. It truly does. It is, I think, one of the more beautiful games to have come out of the Game Jam, and maybe to come out that month of the Game Jam, if I'm being honest. Hell, maybe this whole year so far. While the graphics were beautiful, it did have some gameplay issues. Namely, that you could get fragged so easily. So easily. Clip on the wall in the wrong manner, 1 or 2 pixels off, fragged. Run into something and then realize that you're fragged. Jump down a hole, fragged. The first time it happened, I was rather shocked. Thankfully, the game does save fairly often. However, that can be a bit of a curse. Since you are not in control of your saves, you cannot actually choose when to load up, which means that if you miss something and want to go back to get it, you have to replay the whole game again, because backtracking is not a strong point of the gameplay. In fact, the gameplay pretty much cuts you off from earlier areas in an interesting way, granted, but it can be frustrating when you decide to go one way instead of another and end up going the right way instead of being able to actually explore. Especially since there are collectibles in the game, guys. The gameplay has no battles, per se. It revolves around exploration and puzzle mechanics. And the puzzle mechanic in this game is focused around the other world. Graphically, the world will phase in and out around you. There will be times when you will find little nodes of otherworldliness that will flash in and out. They will allow you to walk over spots that didn't exist before. Where there were once holes is now firm ground, as long as that node is flashing to the other world. It's an interesting and very, very novel concept. I don't think I've seen a game that utilizes something like this before, and it's very fresh. It's something that I would love to see more of in games, utilizing that kind of there but now idea. And the graphics really help pull off and sell the idea of a whole other world. 1 minute you're stayed white walls, and the next minute you're in a verdant, lush cave system full of alien fauna and flora. Well, mostly flora. The fauna we'll get to in a minute. Fauna? Fauna. The game is built around the concept of using this other world to progress. However, it can also cock-block you in a huge way. Some boxes that you can push will have that pulse of otherworldliness, so you can push them across gaps and just walk on by. However, when you leave the room, if you come back into the room, it will reset, and that block will be not where you left it, but way back where you didn't. meaning that unless there is another block there, you cannot go backwards and backtrack at all. This is a problem since there are collectibles, as I already said, and the collectibles are directly tied to the endings that you can get in the game. So if you want all the game, endings, it's a good idea to keep copy pasting your save.json file elsewhere or renaming it and then just copying it back over to replace the old one. Saving is done automatically. You cannot save yourself. You actually just walk through areas and it will automatically save. It's simple, it's easy, it doesn't give you a lot of control over that aspect. The menu is... what's the word? Minuscule? No. You don't get many items. You get different reports, which are the collectibles, and a radio and maybe one or two other little things, key cards, that you need to progress. You find the key cards, you unlock the key doors, you move on. The main interaction in the game via characterization is that of the mysterious voice who comes from you to you from over the radio. He directs, or she, it's a nameless voice, directs your path as you go. They help you to progress. They give you some minor details about the areas and hints as to how to go on. They also introduce you to the other character, which is a huge green alien that will gobble your giblets quite a bit. Very often, if you are silly like me and keep returning to the room where he lives. This alien will chase you around and he will catch you at least once. He's also a bit of an ass. The idea in some areas is to avoid him. In other areas, it's to race him. In other areas, it's just to poke fun at him and annoy him. But for the most part, you're going to be running away anytime you see this fucker emerge. The end of the game is interesting. The whole tone of the game is interesting. The writing is fairly solid. I think maybe there were a few spelling mistakes. Maybe. I can't recall any off the top of my head. I get the feeling that there might have been one in the first episode, maybe, but I was enjoying myself far too much. Your main character does not actually talk at all. He is a silent protagonist who just runs his ass off and pushes blocks. The other characters are, apart from Mr. Radio and Mr. Monster Wanna Eat Your Giblets, are shown through the reports you receive. There are 3 lots of reports, 3 different characters, and each with different information to give you. One of them, the first, is a mission debriefing. The characterization there is very professional, very strict, very in command. It is basically just a letter written, your mission details, should you choose to accept it, or somebody else's mission details. The other 2 are more from point of views of actual characters, and through them you will open up the history of what went on in this place. Now, I don't know how the story would change if you got all of them or if you didn't get any of them. I got story B, which means that, well, I won't spoil it, but let's just say it was a satisfactory story. I'm not sure how it would change. I could imagine that there would be a less satisfactory answer. But again, for the most part, it was well written. Sound is a bit iffy. The music is really good, but it is a bit loud. And the same song does tend to play over and over again, though there are different songs here and there in different areas. The main issue I had with the music was that it kept cutting out for no reason. Otherwise the music was great, but for some reason it would just keep cutting out. There were quite a few bugs, not just graphical bugs either, but there were quite a few graphical bugs, especially with the radio voice and the message window not being of the right size, or just not being called, or just being called but half called. It was very weird, it looked very off, and it wasn't nice to see, which is a pity, because the rest of the game was so lovely detailed that seeing those sort of mistakes were just... Other bugs included, like I said, running into walls, or just at the edge of pits, or just touching something and then being slid across by the game itself to align yourself, and getting fragged, and fragged is fragging annoying. For the most part, everything else worked fine. There was one page that I collected and didn't get a page for, which really annoyed me, because that would have taken up my total to, well, by one. It would have been much better. But for the most part, the game was quite delightful, quite enjoyable, and I'd like to see how it goes with a bit more bug fixing and a little more tweaking here and there. For the most part, it's very complete, and I highly recommend people try it out. So that was my rundown on Divergence. I hope you all enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing more of what this game has to offer, and the team who created it, if they decide to stick together. They might not. They might go their separate ways, and I look forward to seeing what each one of them can do in the future. So thanks for making this game, guys. It was pretty cool, and it was definitely a lovely experience. Anyway, ciao for now, and enjoy the review. Take care, and I'll see you next time, guys. Ciao!